gang warily, test everything. What they telling you makes sense? Does it accord with the Dhamma? Is it, if they're telling you something like, you are the all-being and you should just kill all your enemies? Like, no, that's not Buddhism. Just because some shining being tells you something. There's an old saying, Jacques Vallée said, just because a message comes from heaven doesn't mean it's not stupid. We always have to be aware of these messages we think are coming from heaven, because a lot of the times they're just coming from some part of ourselves that's not particularly nice. And that's something we always have to guard against.
But isn't that then also just as valid for Christianity? I mean, why is Buddhism metaphorical in its teaching, but Christianity is not? I mean, surely
I think it is metaphorical in its teaching, though, isn't it? I mean, I always thought a lot of Christ taught in parables
at different levels of heaven,
right? Well, I think you can argue that. I mean, if you're talking about spiritual ideas that go beyond our understanding, we can only understand things metaphorically through parables, through symbology. I don't think that Christianity isn't metaphorical. I think you can read any religion. I mean, on any level that you can approach it. For some people, it's going to be a metaphorical level. But I think some people need to hang their hat on literal understanding of mythological images. And if you have a good mythology, and I say the word mythology with all respect, not mythology in a dismissive way like it's not true. Mythology is really a higher truth in a way. Yep. You need to have this language to speak to that level of the human mind. And a really good religion will speak to you on all those levels at once. It's up to you to determine what level you're there to, I guess I'm using this, hang your hat on. For someone, I'm very mentally, psychologically oriented, as are many of the people here. So I'm going to be looking at things, well, that's metaphorical. How can I understand that more deeply? I had a friend of mine once, many years ago, and he said to me once, we're all descended from Adam and Eve, right? And I'm like, yeah, in the Bible. He says, well, what do you think that means? And his point was that we're all descended from Adam and Eve, that really we're all one family. I know there are people who literally believe that there was Adam and there was Eve, but there's also, for someone like me, the strength of the story is there is that teaching that we are all ultimately cousins, at least. We are none of us really separate, even though we might all be living in different places and have different life histories. We're all the same, basically, and that's the basis on which we connect. So I can believe that, but I must say I don't literally believe in a Garden of Eden as presented in the Old Testament. But I'm sure there are people that do, but since that is a very good, healthy mythological image, then hopefully they're getting some of that wisdom, even if it's only at the level that they're able to digest it.
Now,
that makes sense.
You actually have brought up an interesting thing that I've actually caught on to, and it's about impermanence. Now, I think that's the one thing that really sets things apart. Like Buddhism believes that in heavens, like the
Deva realms, yeah.
But it's an impermanent type of heaven, like, because you are supposed to reincarnate back into the material world, the world that you actually create in the Deva planes actually is impermanent, so that fades away. I found that pretty interesting, and I think that's something that's really that really bites at Christians too, because for them heaven is eternal. You know what I mean?
That is a basic difference in Buddhist and Christian theology, yes. In Buddhism, you have to remember too, though, when they're talking about a place being impermanent and constant, they're talking about, they say in Buddhism, eons. And an eon is defined as the lifespan of a universe. So if you have a heavenly realm and you go to a heavenly realm, and again, it's going to depend a lot on your mental state at the moment of death, where you're going to be going, along with a lot of other factors, which I'm not going to get into right now because it would take an hour and a half. but you get to heaven, and yes, it might be heaven as you expected, and you've got, the throne, and you're worshiping God, and everybody is happy in this. And this might very well be God, the creator of the universe and the ruler and everything like that, but only for this universe, because this universe will end. And now this does go against Christian theology and most other theologies, that there is an ending to everything. And that's why I always say, if you wind up in heaven, keep meditating, because that you are going to go someplace else, even if that it's at the end of the entire universe. And again, I am no expert on Christian theology. As I understand it, you have the end times, and then you have the end of the world, and then it's for the rest of the universe, it's beer and Skittles, or harps and clouds and halos, if you like. But the universe comes to an end. It doesn't come to an end in Christian theology, as I understand it.
It does.
Buddhism,
the end of the world in Christianity is basically the end of the universe.
Well, what about
okay. I thought so. Heaven isn't included in the universe.
Heaven is not inside this universe.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's
there's a basic difference.
Yeah,
because heaven is the dwelling of God, right?
Right.
And if God created the universe, how can He be in the universe? Right? He is in the universe in the sense that His essence is in everything that He created. But
right.
He's got to be, he can't be inside the thing that He created.
He can create it though, but enter into it.
Now you're gonna get me
That's
into
right.
Now you're gonna get me into science, and I'm gonna start.
Not science.
Theories.
No, scientism is more probably.
Oh, annihilationism. That's what we call it in Buddhism. Annihilationism.
Well, can I say it's very refreshing to see an Asian Catholic go into a debate with
It's ironic, isn't it?
a Caucasian Buddhist.
Semi-Caucasian, anyway.
Right here on
I
Minds Roundtable weekend event, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Yeah. Anything can happen. Anything's possible.
And then the icing.
You
The
can't
icing.
beat this show.
Right, the icing on the cake is Bob Dubs here too, dude. Like,
Yay, Bob!
Come on, B. Where are the horns and the applause?
There you go, man. Like,
And she's keeping me on my toes today.
that's right.
I have to.
That's right. That's your job.
You like being on your toes. You dance well.
Thank you. Thank you.
The thing about heaven and God and worship and everything is that why does that have to be a concrete thing of people worshiping God with angels for all time? I mean, it's a metaphor. There's no God, there's no angels, there's no worship. There's a concept that we're talking about. And so once we start trying to concretize that and give God a personality and make heaven a place, I mean, in terms of quantum physics, there are approximately 7 to 11 dimensions, and all of them exist at the same time in the same place. And so wherever God, or whatever God is and wherever God is, He's here with us, right here, overlapping this dimension. It's not that we go somewhere else. It's that we change state to become a different type of creature, a creature that exists in communion with the vast concepts of ruthless love, justice, truth, eternity. All these concepts are real. All the other is just an artist with a brush trying to conceptualize visually. There we go. Yay, doctor!
Applause!
Yay.
Yay!
Well,
The 7 or 8 dimension is still a theoretical thing, isn't it? I mean,
Yes, it's
are
just another
there
way of
scientific papers about more than 4 dimensions? I mean, we know there are 3 dimensions in this universe for sure, and then the 4th dimension is time.
9
What are the others?
dimensions are the theoretical right now.
Yeah. The 5th dimension is what? What could that be?
So
This is just mathematical construct. We're not
Yeah.
the 4th dimension being time is ridiculous because time is a progression of events. And it's just another way to talk about things. We have 3 dimensions sitting within time. And so people talk about it as if it was a 4th dimension. But mathematically, in string theory, you can keep on adding different axes to the graph. You've got the x-axis and the
Okay,
y-axis.
I
And
see.
then the z, and then
The 11th dimensions are from string theories. Okay.
string theory.
okay, so the idea here is that there are supposed to be multiple dimensions. However, not everything is just spatial. So you have vectors. You have endpoint. You have your length, your depth, and your width. Right. So it's your 3 vectors. Now you add on something called the temporal vector, time. That is what is thought as the 4th dimension. However, you're not limited to that one temporal vector. You can add another temporal vector and essentially be able to freeze time, or add another vector back in time, exist at all points simultaneously, giving some level of omniscience, I think. But this is why these you have Mixed-Links, for example, DC universe, a 5th dimensional being who can just reshape reality with his thought on a 3rd dimensional level. So it's sort of like one of those things. Each one of these vectors you add to whatever dimension you're trying to define gives it its characteristics.
It is pretty interesting.
But I get what.
Can we visualize what the other dimension would be like? I mean, we've seen science fiction movies, but what would constitute a 5th or a 4th dimension if you discount time as one of them?
If we can visualize it in our bones, I mean, we're 3-dimensional creatures, and they arguably make the 4th dimension time. Although I have issues with that, but it's kind of like that book Flatland by Edwin Abbott. If you ever read that, moving everything down a dimension, talking about someone who lives in a 2-dimensional world encountering a 3-dimensional being and trying to understand what that 3rd dimension is, because a 2-dimensional being, we look down and we can see all their inner workings. You know, so all of a sudden he meets a sphere, which looked to him like a line that suddenly gets longer and longer and then gets smaller and smaller. And he says, well, I can see inside, and your heart is doing this. He can see through walls, and he could, well, no, he can't. He just sees above what you can see. So it's very, I think, only mathematically, and I don't know that the mathematicians even really visualize it.